As it's no surprise to those who watch this program that Herman Cain is now out of the presidential race. And other Republican presidential candidates are fighting for his supporters. The question is, who's going to get them?
And that is really the question of the day. Listen, there's still about a month to go before the crucial Iowa caucus. And as you know, anything could happen. Dale Hurd has the story.
After weeks of battling allegations of sexual harassment and infidelity, Herman Cain threw in the towel Saturday.
I am suspending my presidential campaign because of the continued distraction.
And Cain's announcement set off a mad scramble for his supporters and staff. Michelle Bachmann, a Tea Party favorite like Cain, says she's already seeing the impact.
A lot of Herman Cain supporters have been calling our office, and they've been coming over to our side.
But it's former House Speaker Newt Gingrich who's emerged as the frontrunner with just over 4 weeks to go before the Iowa caucuses. CBN chief political correspondent David Brody says Gingrich will benefit the most from Cain's exit.
Cain and Newt have a very good relationship. There's a lot of good blood, not bad blood, between the two, and we understand that Herman Cain, possibly as early as today, maybe a little bit later this week, will endorse Newt Gingrich.
He's followed by Ron Paul and Mitt Romney, but there's still a large block of undecided voters.
What we're hearing is that still 60–70% of the people in Iowa are still undecided.
This is not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination, and quite frankly, Michelle Bachmann should do well in Iowa, and so will Ron Paul. Don't be surprised if Ron Paul pulls off an upset in Iowa.
Romney continues to be viewed with suspicion by many conservatives who say he's changed his stance on abortion and health care. And there's a sense that the frontrunner could change yet again.
We've had the flavors of the month up and down, you know, so far in this campaign.
I was supposedly dead in June and July. I apparently am not. So I'm not going to say that any of my friends can't suddenly surprise us.
With another debate coming up next Saturday, most of the GOP candidates face a week of heavy campaigning in Iowa.
This 2012 election is really going to be an election which presents a choice to the American people about what kind of America we're going to have.
It's been a wild and a woolly ride in this primary, and I suspect that's going to stay the same.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Fascinating how one candidate, Newt Gingrich, came from the ash heap to be the front runner. Extraordinary. But it just seemed with Herman Cain, as personable as he is, as likable as he is, he just didn't have it when it came to foreign policy, and it was so obvious that that's what caused it. It wasn't those allegations, or that didn't hurt.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, 100%. You know, foreign policy, especially with what's going on in the world today, you got to know it, and especially the basics. And if you don't know the basics, I'm sorry, that's just going to kill it.
He was stumbling at the very most basics, so it's a shame. But we'll see. I tell you, if Newt takes it, it'll be the upset of the year, but it looks like he's riding high. The thing that he did was what I've been counseling those guys to do for so long: stop attacking each other. Newt didn't do that. He said, we've got a great field of candidates. Any one of them is better than Barack Obama. These are wonderful people. These all are. And consequently, he just kept rising because that's what people wanted. They want a unifier, not a divider. Well, Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Pat, the leaders of Germany and France unveil a plan they hope will bring Europe's debt crisis under control. The latest idea requires closer political and economic cooperation among the 17 countries in the Eurozone. The two leaders say there needs to be tough limits on how much government can spend or borrow. But an EU spokesman says it's far too early to say the crisis is over. Economists and political leaders worry that if the system fails and countries drop the euro, it could push Europe and the global financial system into chaos. Tensions mounted again in the Middle East this weekend as Iran, Syria, and Israel all seem to be delivering messages to the world. Chris Mitchell has that story.
Iranian television reported its military shot down one of America's top-secret spy drones. NATO said it might have been a drone patrolling neighboring Afghanistan that went astray. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered his own message about Iran at a memorial for Israel's first prime minister. Netanyahu drew a parallel between David Ben-Gurion's decision to declare Israeli statehood despite counsel to the contrary, and those currently advising against military action on Iran. He said, first and foremost, we must learn from Ben-Gurion's commitment to Israel's future, and his willingness to take the difficult decisions necessary to ensure that future. He clearly understood that there would be a high price for his decision, but he believed there would be an even heavier price to pay for not making the decision. We're all here today because Ben-Gurion made the right decision at the right time. Meanwhile, the Israeli daily Haaretz reported Iran threatened to cut funding to Hamas rulers in the Gaza Strip if their leadership continues to leave their headquarters in Damascus. The Syrian military test-launched 180-mile range Scud-B missiles toward Iraq on Saturday. Analysts say the test was meant to warn Western powers against taking military action in Syria. And last week's Egyptian elections, where Islamists won nearly 65% of the vote, is something that concerns Israel and the Western world.
We hope, and every person, every man in the Western world should hope with us, that Egypt will not shift to some kind of Islamic tyranny, but will preserve democratic values and, of course, the peace with Israel and in the region in general.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Pat, so much for the Arab Spring.
Exactly. Well, we felt it coming. You know, Eric Stakelbeck warned us of it, and we felt it was coming, that the Muslim Brotherhood was taking... They were actually the only organized party in Egypt. There were other factions, but... and now the Salafists, apparently they're an ultra-fundamentalist Muslim organization. They have won a number of seats. So we're looking at Israel being isolated. It looks like Egypt will probably abrogate the treaty that was made some time ago with Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat. And it would be a great tragedy, but the tragedy is getting ready to happen. And the forces are lining up, and Israel is going to be isolated. But I think Netanyahu, as a statesman, he's doing an excellent job, and we just congratulate him on what he's doing. But that's despite some crazy things that have been said by one of the supporters of the president, Lee.
Pat, the Obama administration is backing away from controversial statements by its ambassador to Belgium. Ambassador Howard Gutman, who is Jewish, addressed the European Jewish Union in Brussels last week and seemed to justify anti-Semitism among Muslims. According to Israel-based Ynet News, Gutman told the audience there's a difference between traditional anti-Semitism and Muslim hatred for the Jewish state. He said Muslim hatred for Israel is based on Israel's treatment of the Palestinians. He added that Muslim anti-Semitism will fade once Israel and the Palestinians agree to a peace treaty. Jewish leaders reacted with outrage, and the Obama administration responded with this statement: "We condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms, and there is never any justification for prejudice against the Jewish people or Israel." Gutman later issued a statement saying he regrets if his comments were taken wrongly, and he condemns anti-Semitism in all its forms. Still, Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney have called on the president to fire Ambassador Gutman. Many states are not making a passing grade when it comes to fighting human trafficking. That's according to a new report card issued by the American Center for Law and Justice and an organization called Shared Hope International. They looked at how states care for trafficking victims and how forcefully they prosecute traffickers and buyers. 41 states received grades of a D or lower. West Virginia, Maine, and Wyoming have no human trafficking laws, and only 4 states have a full package of services and shelter care for child victims. They are Illinois, Minnesota, New York, and Washington State. Teen sexting may be less common than originally thought. New research shows only 1% of young people between 10 and 17 years old have ever sent a sexually explicit picture via text messaging, and only 7% say they've ever received a suggestive text. The study finds that sexting, as it's called, was very rare among younger and preteens and only slightly more common in older teenagers. In the past, reports have suggested that as much as 20% of teens have sexted. Researchers say the new findings should reassure parents. Financial problems at the post office will soon delay your mail. The Postal Service is set to announce deep cuts designed to save an estimated $3 billion. The plan consolidates mail processing centers and closes about 3,700 local post offices. Those changes will mean a first-class letter will not arrive at its destination the next day. About 42% of first-class mail is now delivered the following day. It could also add to the cost of mail-order prescription drugs. The Postal Service has already announced a 1-cent increase in first-class mail to 45 cents beginning January 22nd. Billy Graham's doctors say he's showing signs of improvement after several days in the hospital. The 93-year-old evangelist is being treated for pneumonia, and hospital officials say Graham is progressing well with physical therapy and short walks in the hospital corridor. He received visitors this weekend and watched his pastor deliver a Sunday sermon on television. Doctors are encouraged by Graham's improvement, but have not set a date for him to go home just yet, Pat.
Well, thanks, Lee. That's an answer to prayer. Billy's in the hearts of all of us. He's a wonderful human being, and I declare he just keeps going on and on and on. I mean, he was in frail health years ago, and here it is at 93, and he's coming back from the hospital. Billy, happy holidays. Merry Christmas. God bless you and your loved ones this time.
Bishop Eddie Long is stepping away from the pulpit. The Atlanta megachurch pastor announced Sunday he's taking a leave of absence to try and heal his family. Long's wife confirmed Friday that she's filing for divorce. Vanessa Long had made conflicting statements about that, but she finally decided to terminate the marriage after, quote, a great deal of deliberation and prayer. Earlier this year, Bishop Long settled lawsuits with 4 men who accused him of coercing them to have sex with him. Long says he's not resigning, though, from New Birth Missionary Baptist Church. CBN's Orphans Promise partnered with a local church in Peru to premiere the Spanish-language version of the latest Superbook episode. More than 800 children and parents attended that event. Children were given gifts as well as traditional bread and hot chocolate. After watching Superbook the first Christmas, the crowd was told about the gospel and were told that almost everyone there made professions of faith in Jesus Christ. The local church will now follow up with them so that they can continue to grow in their faith. And you can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by logging on to cbn.com/international.